Hi, I am Olga Bautista. I am a lifelong resident of the southeast side of Chicago. Our neighborhood is one of the most biodiverse neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. We have that juxtaposed with one of the most busiest ports in Chicago, and then also it's a residential community that is rich with culture, the churches, the festivals that happen in this community, the music, the art. It's fantastic, the way that people come together. I learned that there was these massive piles of petroleum coke that were being stored on the banks of the Calumet River, and it's very, very close to my house, and I was very concerned that my newborn child would be affected negatively, and I started to organize with other community groups and other parents. I mean, we really needed to find out, how were the activities that were happening on the Calumet River impacting our health. We have so many families that have cancer survivors or people who've died of cancer, people with respiratory issues, and all kinds of things like that, when we would go and testify in city council and other places, the information was all anecdotal. We didn't have the data to back it up.
So this is a project really where we were focusing on the realities of environmental racism, right? And this was at the core of it a health equity project where communities of color and communities that have legacies of environmental pollution, they're disproportionately affected. It had a really strong impact on our work.
So we actually went into this process with an idea around bringing in some data about transportation and jobs, maybe bringing in some of the environmental and health aspect. But we did not anticipate going as deep with the community engagement as we went.
Once we really kind of got immersed and we started meeting with our community partners, we realized we really needed to shift the lens, and so we really wanted to change our approach and make sure that the actual research agenda and the questions that we were answering, those were community generated. So I think it was important for us as researchers to realize, okay, we need to decenter ourselves, right? We need to make sure that the actual process and the methods are instead prioritizing the needs of the impacted community members.
It was such a huge difference in how we were participating in this project than how I've been asked to participate in other projects and some of the other folks in the community, because we were being considered as experts in our own lived experience, and that felt really good to be considered as an expert, and also the trust that was being built.
MPC, we want to be very relevant. We want to jump in right when things are happening, but I think for us, balancing at the same time, we're getting this feedback from community, and we're also taking that back to the Department of Planning and saying, this is the direction that this is headed. Is this valuable for you?
But one of our biggest findings was that there is a statistically significant linkage between adult chronic disease, two in particular for the Calumet industrial corridor and the surrounding area, and negative health impacts.
So what we saw was that the Calumet industrial corridor in particular has worse air pollution than all of the rest of the industrial corridors in Chicago, and we saw higher rates of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, and coronary heart disease.
In about halfway through preparing the data and getting all these data sets together, we started to think that we were missing something, that it still wasn't strong enough, and we decided that we wanted to do and add qualitative data and do focus groups in the community.
We're both data scientists, so we love data, we love numbers, but you need to show why those numbers are important for policy really to take place.
Anyone can go to the EPA's Environmental Justice Index and kind of capture the data on respiratory disease, but unless you have that actually grounded in the experience of here's what it's like to then live with that, that's not an ethical kind of research project.
It revealed both what the health impacts are, but then also the reasons why those were happening, the root causes of why we're seeing those impacts down the line.
Now we have this data, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because we see how it's impacted our family and our friends, and it really has to stop. And I think that the way that this data, the Databook was able to come together with so much input from so many people.
These patterns that have been this way for a really long time, you need to obviously center the impacted populations in the kinds of policies and the regulations that you're creating, because clearly it's not working.
The Databook project has been part of a broader journey that MPC is taking towards trying to understand how we are using our seat of power. We know that we're not a community-based organization, we're not trying to fill that role, but taking on more of a role of, being that advocate, being that translator, still being an independent voice and being trusted.